In this video, we're going to look at a couple more examples from section 5.1. Section 5.1 is on the simple interest idea. And there are three formulas that are relevant in this section. The future value form of the investment equation, the present value form of the investment equation, and the interest payment form in simple interest. Okay, this is the first equation is the future value form because it says that it's solved for A. A is the amount that you're trying to figure out what it is in the future. So the equations are labeled by what they are solved for. P is the present value or principal or present value. And since this equation is solved for P, this is the present value form of the equation. And I stands for the interest payment. Okay. So any of the questions in section 5.1 are going to involve deciding which of these three formulas to use. Okay. The example right here from Learning Catalytics is a good example. It says that you have Rick, this person who's trying to borrow money. Okay. Usually timelines are helpful to me in these problems. I always like to write down the times that are of interest. At time 0, something interesting happens. That money was borrowed, $20,000 of money, $20,000 borrowed. That is the principal P. That is the amount in the present. T equals 0 is the present. Okay. And something happens in the future. He plans to repay the loan in 9 months. So here's 1 year. And 9 months from now, which is t equal to 0, 9 months from now, which is t is equal to 9 over 12 years, otherwise known as 3 months. But you'll want to use time and years in all of the formulas above. Okay, you're going to repay the loan in 9 months, or 9 over 12 years. And the interest rate that is going to be being added on top of that loan payment is 5.25%. And the question is, what is the future value? Which we don't know. Okay. Since we don't know the future value, that indicates that we should use the future value formula to solve for it. Use the future value equation. You know the principal of $20,000. 1 plus the interest rate is 0.0525. And then you're going to multiply that by 9 over 12, which is the time, which will give you 20,000. 1 plus 0.0525 on my calculator now, 0.0525 times 9 will give the 0.4725, and you still need to divide that by 12. Okay, so that'd be 20,000. Important to break these problems up into as small steps as possible. Divide the 0.4725 by 12 to get 0.039375, which leads you to 20,000 times 1.039375. Multiply that result by 20,000. And you will get the $20,787.50, which means that the person owes $20,785 here 9 months into the future. Another way to say that is that the person owes in 9 months $787.50 in interest. That is the interest payment, the fee for borrowing money. Okay, so that would be that problem solved. Okay, I'd like to look at one more example of how these problems can be done a little bit differently, or what is an alternative way a question could be asked. Okay. Suppose you borrow $15,000. Okay, and that you're borrowing, let's assume that you're borrowing that in the present, $15,000. And you know that you are in 4 months' time, if this is 1 year, in 4 months' time, 4 over 12 years, something interesting happens that you are going to be required to pay $15,315 in 4 months. Okay. And you know the time, but you have forgotten or never knew what the interest rate was going to be that made that money grow. Okay, it's a good idea to be able to solve for the interest rate so that you could compare loans. Okay, the question is, what is R? You know A. You know the principal, $15,000. You know the time, which is 4 over 12 years. The only thing you don't know is R. But you do know 3 different formulas that apply. One of the formulas had all the variables A, P, and R, and T in it. And you know all of the variables except R. So you substitute in, and now the goal is to solve for R, which can be done by keeping in mind the order of operations, doing dividing both sides, and that will be 1 plus 4R divided by 12. Okay. I would then subtract 1 from both sides, which means that you'd be left with 4R divided by 12. And then my final answer would be to multiply both sides by 12 over 4. After you've subtracted 1. So what I'm going to do in my calculator is I'm first going to do, this is step 1 and step 2, and then my third step is going to be to multiply everything by 3. Okay. So we will do this on our calculator now. 15,315 divided by 15,000 gives you the 1.021. You're going to subtract 1 from that to get 0.021. 0.021, 12 over 4 is 3. So 0.021 multiplied by 3 gives you 0.063 for R. Now that's just the number for R. That will convert to a percentage as moving the decimal places to the right. 6.3% is the interest rate R. And that's what you could put in for your answer of 6.3%, which is the answer that is showing up down here in the lower left of the screen. Okay? Other problems that we'll look at in the next class will be that you may want to try to do now is to figure out how to solve problems with the present value form of the equation. And there are a couple examples we'll look at in class in the future.